All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and continue with some word problems. It says, George says that to subtract fractions with different denominators, you always have to multiply the denominators to find the common unit. So basically what he is saying is that you always just take this denominator, multiply it with that fraction, this denominator, and multiply it with that fraction. You can do that. That is completely correct. However, you're going to make more work for yourself because most of the time you will not have to simplify. There are times, like on the front side, we did have to simplify one of those fractions when we did find that smaller multiple that would be a good denominator, but most of the time you will not have to. So when I do this answer, I get 10 48ths. Okay, and so we're going to take a look at this because I actually can simplify this, and you guys are probably sitting here thinking, well, what number? So what I'm going to do is we're going to talk about how it is really important to make sure that you always find that smallest multiple that I could use. So if I have 8 and 6, I'm going to go ahead and count by 8s. And I'm going to stop right here because I actually found a smaller multiple that I could use. Because when I count by 6s, there is 24. Okay, so just kind of your rule is you could multiply the denominator of one fraction by the denominator of the other fraction. You could completely do that, but you want to make sure that it's the smallest one that is possible, so then you could possibly not have to simplify later. So I'm going to go ahead and do 3/8 and I'm going to subtract 1/6. And because I put over here, I've got my list, I know that I'm going to multiply the fraction that has 8 as the denominator times 3 because it's that third term. And then I'm going to multiply this fraction times 4 because it is that fourth term. So I'm going to have 9 24ths, and I'm going to subtract 4 24ths, and I'm going to get 5 24ths. Okay, this is an example. Thinking here, you guys probably are like, well, I just don't know what I could divide 10 and 48 by that I'd be able to make the number smaller. It's already done for you. You don't have to do it. That's why it's very important. Find that least common multiple that is in common, and then you guys can figure that out. All right, so Mei Ling has 1/4 of a liter of orange juice, and she drinks 1/3 of a liter. I want to know how much she has left. Okay, let's kind of wait for this extension until we have solved it, and then we'll talk about that extension question. So first of all, I want to find that common denominator. If I have 4 and 3, I'm going to count by 4, 8, 12. I'm going to stop there because already right now, I know that 12 is going to be that common denominator. So I'm going to multiply this one by 3 because it's that third term. I'm going to multiply the one that has 3 as the fraction times 4 because it is the fourth term. So I have 1 and 3/12 minus 4/12. Now, I cannot do 3 minus 4. So you can do one of two things. You can borrow this whole number and break it into the fraction, or what I can do is I can turn this into an improper fraction. And when I turn it into an improper fraction, I multiply the denominator times the whole number, and I add the numerator. So I would go 12 times 1 is 12, plus 3 is 15. So I would have 15/12, and I would subtract 4/12, and I would get 11/12 left. Okay, so that is going with that one. This is the extension, and I'm just going to call it an EXT. And it says that if her brother drinks twice as much as Mei Ling, then how much is left? So if Mei Ling drank 1/3 and he drinks twice as much, basically what I'm saying is 1/3 plus 1/3. So that's basically telling me that he is drinking 2/3 of orange juice. And so what I'm actually going to do is, because I've already subtracted how much she drank, I'm now going to subtract what I know is left. I'm going to subtract what he drank. So I'm going to take that 11/12 and I'm going to subtract 2/3. Okay. Now, because I already know my common denominator is going to be 12, I'm going to multiply this by 4. And I'm going to get 11/12 minus 8/12. And I'm going to get 3/12 as my answer. Now, I could leave it like this, but I can actually simplify because I can divide both those numbers by 3 to get a smaller number. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So after her brother drinks, she has 1/4 of a liter left. I'm going to put big L there to label that. She has 1/4 of a liter left. Okay. So this next one, it says Harlan uses 3.5 kilograms of sand to make a large hourglass. To make a smaller one, he only uses 1 3/7. It says, how much more sand did it take to make the larger hourglass than the smaller one? So I'm comparing these, and so whenever I'm comparing, I'm going to subtract. It didn't ask me how much I used altogether. It wants me basically to know what is the difference. So when I count out 2 and 7 to find that common denominator, I know that once I get to 14, that is going to be what I'm going to use as my common denominator. Okay, so I know that this one is the 7th term, and this one is the 2nd term. And I'm going to do 3, and I'm going to do my multiplication, 7/14, and I'm going to subtract 1 and 6/14. Before I move on, I need to make sure that I don't need to borrow, which I don't because I can do 7 minus 6. So I can do 3 minus 1 is going to be 2, and 7 minus 6 is 1/14 kilograms more. Okay, that's because this is the difference between these two numbers is 2 and 1/14 of a kilogram.